In just 30 years, Hans Thalstrup's engaged in exploits that could rival the boy's own adventures. This boat trip just one journey to get the Danish-born Australian into the record books for either being the first or the fastest to do it. A descendant of the families that introduced consumers worldwide to bottled LPG and Danish blue cheese, Hans also wants to leave his own legacy for future generations.
I just think life is about exploring, about adventure, but then as you get older in life, of course, you've got to be a futurist because you've got to make sure that we pass on an earth to the next generation that was as good as what we got. And the reason you've got to continuously look for better is that there is no looking back.
The motor vehicle figures in many of Thalstrup's adventures, including his introduction of solar-powered cars to the world. While still keen to conserve energy, he rolled through Newcastle today on his latest mission to drive between Darwin and Brisbane, limiting fuel consumption to just 540 litres, the same amount used by a V8 supercar for the Bathurst 1000.
And I said, well, hey, we could do 10,000 kilometres on that and prove to people it's your choice. If you want to go faster, you pay for it. If you want to go further, you can see more of Australia.
And the trip already has Hans thinking about another adventure.
In fact, I worked out this trip after 5 trips around Australia. I really must go as a passenger one day.
Hans Thalstrup will complete his latest record attempt in Brisbane tomorrow. Gary Blair, NBN News.
Take your chances and when not to. Lapping Mike Brown right there, he's also having a bad night.
Reed was the first Australian to win a U.S. Supercross race, and now he is the first Australian to win an American Supercross title with his 6th straight victory.
There you go.
There's the stars.
Beaker
6 stars.
An hour-long roundtable discussion in the office of Hunter MP Joel Fitzgibbon put the Cessnock doctor shortage into perspective for the federal government, a meeting the GPs describe as a breakthrough.
Cessnock feels very forgotten, I think, a lot of the time, and to actually have that access to be able to put our concerns to somebody from the department was a very valuable exercise.
There are now just 9 doctors servicing an average of 2,100 patients each in Cessnock. The accepted ratio should be 1 doctor for every 1,400 people. Today's talks will now see a written submission prepared for the Federal Health Minister to access support programs for the Cessnock area.
Well, we do have a crisis here in Cessnock, but the Minister's office today effectively acknowledged that, and they've now agreed to work with us in terms of addressing that problem, both short term and of course medium to long term.
The effect of the doctors' shortage is being felt at the emergency department of local hospitals. Cessnock MP Kerry Hickey has told State Parliament that after doctors' surgeries close, that a veritable Congo line of people can be found at the hospitals waiting to see a GP. Doctors believe some of the assistance discussed today will prove helpful for a new after-hours GP service to be introduced at Cessnock Hospital. Gary Blair, NBN News.
Matt Parsons has so far led the Knights when regular players were missing and the odds stacked against those remaining. This week, however, Ben Kennedy, Josh Perry and Anthony Quinn are back at least, and Newcastle will start favourite against the beleaguered Bunnies.
Odds won't meet an inning if we don't turn up with the right attitude on Sunday and play to our potential. So my record so far at captain hasn't been great, but let's try and change that this weekend.
The Knights will have a final training run on Saturday. They're not the only Newcastle side preparing for action this weekend. The local league's rep team takes on old rival Northern Rivers in the opening round of the country championships in Murwillumbah.
They always tend to give us a hard run. I've played up there a couple of times and you know, Newcastle seem to be the team everyone wants to beat each year, so we're expecting a pretty tough one.
It hasn't been an ideal lead-up for the squad, with 5 forwards forced out through injury. One of the league's leading lights, Andrew Taylor, though, should prove an adequate replacement, while the strong Cessnock connection continues in the halves with debutant Kane Bradley.
He's happy to point the bikes around the park, and having Troy Peterson there at 5'8", his club mate, they're working in well together, so they got the side gelling pretty well.
The clash takes place on Saturday.
Professor Ken Nunn from the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Unit at the John Hunter Hospital treats about a dozen young people each day, but he says there are many more out there needing help.
We're aware that there's a bigger group of kids who are as yet not being treated, and where parents are struggling and thinking, I'm worried about my child, and we're encouraging those people to take their kids along to their doctors.
He told the 150 delegates at today's conference that some people can be difficult to help, but through persistence comes hope.
If people push you away and are not terribly grateful to start with, you can't take that personally, because mental illness is hard and it's got a lot of stigma. And I think with the kids, you've got to have a good sense of humour, and certainly if you've got any ounce of pomposity at all, if you're pompous, you'll get it, because these kids are not going to tolerate that.
Well, tonight begins a massive weekend of rugby league, and a lot has already been said about the sentimental clash between the Roosters and the Bulldogs. Everyone is taking the chance to reflect on what could have been last year. Now, hopefully we'll get between 30 and 40,000 people to the match. It'll be the match of the season without a doubt. Make sure you don't miss it tonight. But the other aspect of this weekend is a city-country clash, and the teams will be selected. Now, you'll see two of the strongest lineups ever fielded, and to give you an example, in the country team alone, for the position of front row, you'll see the likes of Parsons, Perry, Hindmarsh, Jason Riles, Luke Bailey, Willie Mason, Paul Stringer. Now that's just to name a few. they're all in the running for front row. And one thing is, you can be sure that a lot of players will be playing extra hard on the weekend to make sure they're in both of those teams, the City Country teams. Now tomorrow we'll see the Sharks face, I believe, their true test. They're up against Manly at Toyota Park. Now to date they haven't won a game, and I believe they have the ability and the will to beat the Sea Eagles. And if they don't, I've got to say in the next 4 weeks you'll see their season pretty well wound up for them. Now the reason that I say that is because 3 of the next 4 games are against the Knights, the competition leaders Canberra, and last year's grand finalist, the Warriors. Now even if they're in good form, I think they still would have struggled to beat those sides, so they must win tomorrow or I believe their season is gone. Now on to round 9, I'm tipping the Roosters tonight. I think it'll be a great game, but they can do it. Saturday, the Raiders, the Warriors and the Sharks to win, and Sunday I'm going to go for the Broncos, Knights of course, and the Dragons. And would just like to wish all the mums on Sunday a wonderful day. Enjoy yourself. Good luck with your tips. Catch you next week.
You wouldn't expect to find a straitjacket at your library, and textbooks on treating mental illness have come a long way. These items from the James Fletcher Hospital Library are among the treasures assembled at the Lovett Gallery in Layman Street. There's Sir Isaac Newton's book of mathematics from 1739, the thoughts of the Archbishop of Canterbury written during his imprisonment in the Tower of London in 1695, the stories of Captain Cook's voyages and paintings of a busy Newcastle harbour in 1883 also feature. Then there's the Newcastle Symphony Orchestra, pictured in 1930, the La Bohème score signed by Puccini, and the stern-looking principal of Newcastle Boys High, F.H. Baird.
One of the reasons why we're hosting this exhibition is to highlight the things that public libraries do actually have in their collections, and this is a great opportunity for young people to see things other than just what's on the internet.
Meantime, next door at the Regent Art Gallery is a collection of etchings by Lucian Freud, the grandson of Sigmund Freud.
Freud's skill is to capture the actual physical presence of a person.
Back towards it straight away, slotted, and she sneaks out. Kiana Kennedy.
Country hospitality well and truly flowed last night for the Horse Festival Ball. As usual, the locals eased their way into 10 days of festivities with one big party. Today, little jockeys took on some of the town's tamer horses, while some opted to ride side saddle It proved too much for one little cowboy, but it was the parade that really reignited the country spirit. 85-year-old Bert Tuckey has the honour of being this year's VIP.
I'm born in Scone, reared and grew up in Gundy. I won the buck jump at Gundy when I was 17.
The parade provided a sample of all aspects of country life, from traditional working horses to quad bikes and country bumpkins, enough to please everyone, even those who think they've seen it all before. The popularity of the 10-day horse festival also reflects the strength of the local horse industry.
Everyone's really looking forward to the weeks of activities with the thoroughbred sales and the Scone Race Club Cup meeting.
Cessnock had 5 players backing up from yesterday's representative game at Murwillumbah. One of those, Lance Leonard, was in the action early, scoring the visitors first. It was a great team try that got Torres on the board, with Joel Berry slicing through, before some great support play saw star Kiwi recruit George Carmont get his first. Jamie Batty came oh so close not long after, while his opposite number Kane Bradley booted Cessnock 2 points clear. It was either side of half-time that really swung things, with Troy Peterson sending Daniel Smales charging away to score a great captain's try. After the break, Peterson quickly delivered the money ball again. This time Clint Talon raced away to open a 14-4 lead. The Terrace was leaving a mark both in defence and attack, the Carmont brothers combining this time as George landed a second. Goanna half Kane Bradley was in question before the game with a groin injury, but it was the game he put beyond doubt with a solo effort which finished under the sticks. Carmont landed a treble on full time, but it was Cessnock going home with the competition points. Playing away from home was the only advantage Adamstown was prepared to give. Ben Lane soon had them on the right track, netting the first. Tony Majerowski thought he'd found the equaliser, only to be denied. Not a second time though, his tap-in drew both teams level. Coming off the bench, Doug West knows only one direction, and a beautiful chip landed the first of his 3 for the match. Premiers Azuri haven't enjoyed the start to their title defence they would have planned, but strikes like this from Paul Wheeler showed why they're still a real danger. But today was the Rosebuds' day, a 4-2 win, helping them keep pace with the competition leaders.
Born at just 28 weeks, tiny twins James and Lachlan are receiving the best possible care thanks to Stephanie. That's the name given to these German-built machines, considered to be the new benchmark in ventilators. They help premature and sick babies to breathe by encouraging nature to take its course.
When the baby starts to take a breath, the ventilator will support that breath.
Of the 800 babies admitted to the unit each year from all over the state's north, around 100 will need this kind of treatment. For parents thrust into this high-tech world, the new machines should mean they too can breathe easier.
Confidence knowing that we have such good equipment, flows on to providing really good care as well.
The ventilators are a big advance on the systems of old, but they're also more pricey. Each machine cost Hunter Health $100,000. The hospital will need to purchase another 4 units within the next couple of years to keep up its ventilation standards. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
It was the kind of reception sea eagles and sharks never see in Newcastle. Pupils from Mayfield's St Columban's and St Dominic's mobbing Solomon Hamono, John Hopewadi and Jason Stevens, although the front rower had his own opinion on why he was so popular.
I think that might have confused me with Josh Perry or something. They were clapping.
Stevens knows country's Novocastrians won't prove so hospitable on Friday night, while the resurgent John Hopewadi has big raps on the man he'll have to mark.
Tahu is probably the best winger in the league right now. He's got magical feet, it's just unbelievable how good he is on his feet. And he's quick, he can jump, he's got pretty much everything,
Josh Perry might not be as nimble, but the young forward's keen to finally turn a country jumper blue. And with New South Wales apparently looking for an enforcer off the bench, it could be his year.
Yeah, I've been getting a little bit angry out in the field lately, so maybe that might be my go.
Welcome to Newcastle. You're expired. That's the message the council wants to extend from the inner city to neighbouring suburbs like Newcastle East, Cooks Hill, Bar Beach and Newcastle West. But residents are fighting back.
We have majority of the residents doesn't really want to extend paid parking in their streets.
Traffic Coordinator Jocelyn Corden says the community response has been overwhelming, with more than 90% of submissions condemning the plan.
Like when they come home, why they have to pay to park in the residential streets. So that's what their main concern.
Under the plan, residents would have to pay $30 for a permit to park near their homes.
I would think that a response of 90% of respondents saying no is something the council would take quite a deal of notice of.
Meantime, this new council car park behind the Delaney Hotel in Derby Street opened 3 weeks ago and remains free of charge. Council staff will outline their parking meter plans tonight at a public meeting at the Town Hall from 6:30. Paul Lobb, NBN News. Licensed builders like Cole Smith are waving their tape measures around like never before, trying to keep up with the latest trend to renovate.
They'd rather stay in the area that they know, and it doesn't cost them as much to renovate their house as it does to go into a new home.
He says the home modification market is booming.
20 to 25 quotes a week. 6 months ago, we're probably only talking 2 or 3 quotes a week.
The increase in real estate prices has meant that people have been able to borrow more money, and therefore they're investing in their own home so they can capitalise on that gain. The low interest rates and continuing low interest rates have been another big impact.
The Newcastle Master Builders Association says for many people, staying put is a better investment.
People are tending to upgrade in those areas with greatest capital value. Merriweather Heights, New Lambton Heights, Adamstown, anywhere near the ocean at the moment is just skyrocketing.
For any trainer, the story of 3-year-old colt Schwazir really is a dream come true. Purchased for just $50,000 by trainer Paul Perry and the Wallace family, his earnings have already exceeded the $1 million mark. But it seems his storming home runs are not just turning heads in Australia. Next Friday, he's bound for Britain, where co-trainer Shannon Perry will begin preparing him for an invitation-only 5-day meeting at the exclusive Royal Ascot.
Well, if you want to be in the enclosure, you must wear your top hat and tails. Otherwise, you're on the outside of the circle looking in.
Schwazir has been nominated for 2 events. On the 17th of June, he'll run the Kingstand Stakes over 1,000 metres, and again on the 21st for the 1,200 metre Golden Jubilee Stakes.
That's down a straight like he has been winning down here in Melbourne, and then 5 days later down the straight like he does at Flemington.
And although a win and $500,000 would make the exercise a worthwhile one, the next time the star galloper jumps from the barrier, he'll be running for a lot more than just prize money.
There's been Australian horses go there before under English trainers, but this is the first Australian trained horse to go to the UK and compete.
You look like a proud trainer. Is he going to be worth dressing up for?
I tell you what, I don't think there's a big enough wall could stop us getting there.
Stephen Mount, NBN News.
Almost $4.5 million has been spent to provide Denman with its new healthcare complex. Residents this afternoon were given an open day to see how the site of the town's former hospital has been transformed into a new generation multi-purpose health centre.
It brings us the opportunity to combine residential aged care with our acute inpatient services and far better facilities for community health.
The centre was built on the Central Coast as 38 individual modules, then trucked to Denman and connected together on site. There are 6 acute care hospital beds and 11 aged care beds. They'll be brought into service from next month. Denman has the Hunter's first such facility, and another is proposed for Merriwar.
So we will see another facility of this type, though unique in itself, take place in that community.
The multi-purpose health service will provide an additional benefit for Denman. It's attracted an all-important visiting medical officer who will operate a private practice from the MPS, giving the town an additional doctor. Gary Blair, NBN News.
The former defence land in the heart of Adamstown off Brunker Road has been vacant for years, but it's remained something of a political battlefield. Now, after extensive community debate, the state government has cleared the way for the 5-hectare site's transformation into a 72-house estate. It'll be home to our increasing ranks of Defence Force families.
We've got a significant shortage of housing stock here in the Hunter, driven by a number of factors, but one of the major factors is the movement of 2 Squadron and the Airborne Early Warning Aircraft project, which is coming to Williamtown.
The Defence Housing Authority says it's listened to the concerns of locals and has ensured the development will not be an urban jungle. It'll consist mainly of 4-bedroom houses and some townhouses. The first families should begin moving in by the middle of next year.
It's very close to transport and to shops, and for the family of people in the military, those sorts of facilities are very important.
Newcastle Council is expected to consider the plans in around a month's time. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
The Rural Transaction Centre has been purpose-built at a cost of $700,000. It will secure access to financial and some government services. While drought-related water restrictions may have delayed landscaping, the complex is already a landmark, becoming the first civic building constructed in the town for years.
outside of the Emirates parks and the polo development and that within the Shire, certainly in the Murrurundi town, it is the biggest development.
In another breakthrough, the town finally has a visitor information centre to showcase the area's tourist attractions and the Shire's own produce and goods. The complex also boasts a community technology centre which will introduce more people to the computer age. But it's only part of the plan for the site, with a second stage proposed.
Which should incorporate a display area for the Peter Norval aircraft that flew around the world, and also hopefully a new library.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
The holding cells are off limits to the media, but they're at the centre of a growing political storm. Located behind Raymond Terrace Police Station, they were decommissioned by the police service 4 years ago, but used until today by prison officers attached to the court. Their ban on using the cells has sparked a decision to close the court, but the Law Society says it's an overreaction.
A judicial solution to what really is a political problem, and that political problem exists because the government has not allocated sufficient funds or any funds to upgrade facilities here at Raymond Terrace Police Station.
Raymond Terrace Local Court sits 10 times a month, hearing about 2,500 cases each year. If the closure goes ahead, those matters will be transferred to Newcastle, impacting upon that court's already busy workload. The Police Association says it'll also take officers away from the front line.
Smaller stations such as Tea Gardens, Karua, Lemon Tree Passage, Nelson Bay areas, which are covered by this court, will find themselves perhaps coming here to fill the void or perhaps do the prisoner transport.
Until the court closes on June 20, police will transfer prisoners in custody to Newcastle. The service is supporting moves to find a solution.
This courthouse is the busiest, as I understand it, on the circuit in this area, and yeah, of course I'd want to keep the local court open, but we also understand that there's major issues with the safe custody areas for the court prisoners.
Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News. Richard Ansell bears the scars of a recent run-in with two would-be robbers. He was injured during a scuffle with the intruders who'd walked past his unlocked front door, which had been left open for guests.
In the last 4 weeks since it happened, I've been checking the doors 3 times a night, and I live here alone, so yeah, it's certainly a lesson.
It's a lesson increasing numbers of Novocastrians are learning, with figures from insurer AAMI revealing 1 in 8 burglaries now happens while someone is at home, and 4 in 10 Newcastle residents have experienced a break and enter at some time. The research also shows that while we're very security conscious, 37% of people admit they sometimes forget to lock the door. Police say they've made major inroads into cutting the robbery rate over the past year, but are often frustrated by repeat offenders.
They will be given bail, and while they're on bail, they'll get out and they'll do heaps more in order to finance themselves for later on down the track.
Car theft remains another hot crime area in Newcastle, with most people saying they're uneasy about parking in unfamiliar streets. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
The 14-metre yacht CG was safely in Nelson Bay Harbour today after being towed almost 200 kilometres in from the ocean after losing its rudder. A small crowd gathered to see the yacht raised and to view the shaft where the rudder once was. Skipper Chris Griffiths was enjoying his 15th return voyage to Lord Howe when he and his crew heard a loud noise under the boat.
I looked over to see the spade or the rudder floating precariously behind the vessel, and I thought to myself, well, very quickly, that's not supposed to be there.
When the rudder floated away, the 8 on board rigged a makeshift replacement, but it proved difficult to handle as conditions worsened.
It's a bit awesome to look at it now without the rudder and realise what we've been through. It was a very difficult task for all the crew, and we all pulled very, very well together.
They suspect a large mammal was the culprit.
We'd seen some whales, some pilot whales before. They came close to the boat, but we must have hit something, judging by the damage, or something hit us.
Chris has praised the crew of the police-launched Nemesis that came to his aid.
A lot of young water policemen, fairly new in the job, very professional.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
They don't call it life ball for nothing, a cross between netball and basketball designed as a form of fitness for seniors. The rules are simple: no running, no barging, and the smiles are compulsory. The concept was born in the state's south and brought to the Hunter by Antoinette Griffiths, who's seen some obvious health benefits.
There's an 86-year-old lady playing in the Canoundra area, and she started using a walking frame, but she no longer uses that walking frame, and her doctor does not want her to give up this game at all.
For the record, Darks beat the Lights in today's match-up, but the challenge has gone out for more to join in the fun.
It's well worth the effort to get out of that lounge chair and come and have a go.
A chilly night at Whitebridge for fans of two teams which haven't made ideal starts to the NBN Soccer League. Goalless after the first half, the action picked up in the second. South Cardiff's Daniel Ramage going past half the Highfields lineup, but failing to beat one key member. The Wolves were unlucky not to get a penalty at the other end, as Gunners keeper Mark Wright was also going to take some beating. But Highfields had something even sturdier on their side, and striker Chad Mansley was anything but wooden in attack. 1-0, and away past Wolves keeper Ben Smith still eluded South Cardiff. And with his opposite numbers still in great touch, it took something special from Chris Gazzard to seal the win for Highfields. The 2-0 victory puts the Premiers on 6 points, but with every team having at least one catch-up game in hand, the league's wide open after 6 rounds.
When the students of the small Montessori primary school at Barnsley arrived for class this morning, they couldn't believe their eyes.
I thought they were joking. I didn't think they were being serious until I actually saw it. And I wasn't very happy then.
I felt sad.
Why?
Well, my special bug book was in there.
The private school, with 2 teachers and almost 20 students, has rented the classroom at the Barnsley Community Complex since January. The overnight fire took 5 fire brigade units almost 2 hours to put out.
Montessori school uses a lot of hands-on resources, which has taken a long time for us to build up. Things you've had for years that you've used for teaching, it's just all gone.
With the students upset by the devastation, teachers chose a novel way to work through it.
We've got some coal from the actual fire, and so we're drawing what we see and what we've got left. And that's helped because they're discussing the things that they've lost.
While investigations into the cause of the fire are underway, the school is looking for a new home. Paul Lobb, NBN News. Australia's biggest morning tea was a hair-raising experience on the roof of the Newcastle Permanent head office today.
Yes, we wanted to have Newcastle's highest morning tea, but we're going to have to go one floor down for most people to actually enjoy it, given that it's a little bit blustery and not too pleasant here today.
Most chose the comfort of the boardroom instead, happy to make a donation to help others. Meantime, there was plenty of clowning around in Wheeler Place in the city, where circus students helped add some flavour to the fundraising. The New South Wales Cancer Council hopes to raise about $3 million for further research.
In Australia, about 27% of all deaths are related to cancer causes, and for example, 1 in 5 people smoke, and tobacco causes many of the deaths, in not only from cancer but other sorts of diseases. It contributes to heart disease.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
The 60-year-old was beheaded earlier this week at a Seventh-day Adventist Church hospital on Malaita Island. Police took the alleged killer into custody after a manhunt on the island. He's been taken to the Solomons capital, Honiara, to be formally charged. A church service for Mr Gersbach will be held at the Avondale College near Newcastle on Monday.
We'll find out after the break.
Oh, Eddie, come on, Eddie.
Foster Tongue Curry.
It was Mario's fault. Is it fair to say that Mario has the deciding vote?
Yes, he did. We're obviously disappointed, but the 50 tickets to Origin 3 and Armidale did finish in the top 2, so well done, Armidale.
Yeah. And well done to you, Mario. Thanks for going up to the chair.
It's no secret that NSL clubs are hurting financially, and Newcastle is no exception. Con Constantine has reportedly poured more than $2.5 million into United in 2 years, and he's not the type to continue throwing money away without result.
I said to myself, 2 years down the track, the whole thing will turn around, and there will be sufficient bonus there.
That prediction hinges on the expectation Frank Lowy and his board will be voted in next month to take over Soccer Australia. If they don't, Constantine will be then forced to rethink.
But if I see that no changes have taken place with Soccer Australia, then I've got to make a move. But I have no doubt in my mind that will take place.
The club will announce its player of the season tomorrow night, with the winner tipped to come from either Joel Griffiths, Travis Dodd or Daniel Beltrame. Cessnock host Highfields in the NBN Soccer League tomorrow, while on Sunday Adamstown will be out to end Broadmeadow's unbeaten run. That was the name of the game today at the Walker Waterworks outside Maitland, with the area primary and secondary cross-country championships. The top 6 finishers in each division will now go to the state championships. And it's a replay of last year's grand final in Newcastle and Hunter Rugby tomorrow, with Hamilton taking on the Wanderers.
These kids are part of a club which has bred harness racing champions, but after 20 years, their club is facing closure. Harness Racing New South Wales wants to merge the Maitland and Newcastle harness clubs, which would see all events move to Newcastle. Trainers say if the harness club moves, the mini trotting brigade will be forced to follow because they're covered by the same insurance policy.
They will be losing their fun day, their trial day, their race days, and it's going to be just so hard for them.
But the plan could also mean many children won't be able to continue in the sport, like Matthew Jackson, who's the 4th generation of his family to be involved in harness racing.
Might have to give it up because it'd just be real hard to get there and stuff. So.
Parents say they're disappointed their children's horse skills could be lost. Over the past 20 years, the popularity of mini trotting has continued to grow. Today, the Newcastle Maitland Club is one of the largest clubs in the state. The club's vowing to fight the plan, urging people to write to the state's gaming and racing minister. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
Steve Simpson was just happy to be up and about, especially after yesterday's special from Petro Civoniceva. Cleared of back fractures, a bruised kidney will keep him out of the Blues.
Obviously they want to get a fit side in camp and go through all of the process, so it's disappointing to miss out, but hopefully I'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Robbie O'Davis found himself at the same physio and faced with the same decision after he aggravated a knee injury.
I would have been really struggling to make the game, and playing an Origin game at 60% fit is just not the thing to do.
Josh Perry couldn't wait to join his new teammates after hearing the news he was a Blue.
Yeah, it's hard to explain at the moment, mate. It's just get down there and try and settle in a bit, I suppose.
It'll be easier alongside 5 other Knights, including his captain Andrew Johns. He celebrated his 200th club game in the best possible way by winning at a ground he'll soon return to with the Blues.
It was a great game, but I expect it to be totally different next Wednesday.
But that win in Brisbane did ensure some fellow Knights made the team as well, with Matt Gidley and Tamana Tahu answering their critics in the best possible way.
Yeah, I suppose so. It was, can't have hurt, I suppose. Beating the Broncos at Lang Park, so in front of 50,000. So.
They'll get it all again in less than 2 weeks. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
It's estimated more than 4,000 lives have been saved since Red Nose Day began 15 years ago. This morning, those who've sadly still experienced the heartbreaking loss of a child early in life gathered to place photos of loved ones in the Remembrance Room at the SIDS and Kids Centre in Hamilton. These days, the group not only deals with sudden infant death syndrome, but also families of illness and accident victims. Former Lady Mayoress Margaret McNaughton adding a photo of her daughter Jenny for the first time. Held on the 27th of this month, Red Nose Day will seek to raise money for the SIDS and kids education and support services, and research into a syndrome that's cause still hasn't been pinpointed.
No, we haven't, but we have some very good clues as to where to look, because the risk factors for SIDS basically parallel those for infection in babies and young children, and this is the line that we've been pursuing.
And already getting into the spirit of a day that encourages people to look amusing for a worthy cause was patron Mark Richards, the champion surfer given the task of cracking the world's most stubborn piñata. Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
if we're going to teach these kids a little bit about the environment and a little bit of an appreciation for it and their local community, well, this seemed to us a pretty practical way to achieve that.
News of any major new hotel development usually brings an added bonus of extra jobs and tourism, and that's what's being promised by Crown Plaza's foray into the Hunter Vineyards. Joining forces with Sydney-based developer High Trade, the chain has been chosen as the operator of a resort complex to be built at the Hunter Valley Golf and Country Club.
It incorporates a 150-room hotel with 175 room or tourist units, plus an 18-hole golf course.
And that translates to a possible 200 jobs during construction and 180 local permanent positions thereafter. Cessnock Council sees other positives, tipping that a resort situated directly opposite the airport and vineyards could be the first of many.
It brings in a big hotel chain, and hopefully that'll be the first of a couple that'll move out there.
The development application was originally approved in 1989, but financial hardship has fallen on every attempt to build a hotel on the site. However, High Trade has indicated it wishes to proceed as soon as possible in order to be operating by Christmas next year. Stephen Mount, NBN News.